Quit, please. Ow!
Oh, I'm sorry.
You poked me in the eye.
NaLyssa Smith has sparked one of the most controversial scandals in WNBA history, and the fallout could change everything for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Fans are outraged and the trust within the team has been shattered. What exactly did Smith do? And why are people calling this a betrayal of epic proportions? Stick around as we dive into the shocking events that have rocked the league and left the Fever's playoff hopes in ruins. The WNBA has been hit with a scandal that nobody saw coming. NaLyssa Smith, once a rising star for the Indiana Fever, is now at the center of a shocking controversy involving her alleged betrayal of the team. Reports have surfaced that Smith may have leaked the Fever's play calls to her girlfriend DiJonai Carrington, who plays for a rival team, the Connecticut Sun.
But you have the conflict of interest because she's dating somebody that is a known Caitlin Clark hater and has had multiple run-ins, incidents, whatever you want to call them, with Caitlin Clark. I mean, what are we doing here? Are we protecting DiJonai Carrington now? Is that where we're at?
This isn't just an ordinary case of internal drama. This is betrayal at the highest level, and it's left fans and players in utter disbelief. One source close to the team suggested Smith's actions could have completely derailed the Fever's playoff chances. The Fever, who had been on a solid path to success with Caitlin Clark leading the charge, are now dealing with an internal crisis that no one could have anticipated. In professional sports, trust between teammates is everything. The play calls are like a team's secret weapon, strategies that, when executed properly, can lead to victory. If an opposing team knows these plays in advance, the advantage is gone. The game becomes a predictable affair, and the results can be disastrous. This is exactly what some fans believe happened with the Fever. During a crucial game, the team looked completely out of sync. Passes were off, defense was sluggish, and their offense was disjointed. Many have pointed the finger at Smith's alleged betrayal, claiming that her actions may have handed the game to their rivals on a silver platter.
Very clearly, this situation is just messy. The entire NaLyssa Smith saga is messy.
Unsurprisingly, the response has been swift and harsh. Fever fans have flooded social media, expressing their anger and disappointment. One viral tweet summed up the general sentiment. NaLyssa Smith was supposed to be our future. Now she's the one destroying it. How could she do this to Caitlin Clark and the team? The scandal has also raised questions within the team itself. Can they trust Smith moving forward? How do you rebuild chemistry after something like this?
Many people in the fan base don't want her on the team. Frankly, I think a lot of fan bases don't want her on their team. And a lot of us, I know my feeling about it is the fact that, hey, because of her relationship with DiJonai Carrington, maybe the only team NaLyssa Smith can be on is the Connecticut Sun. Now, video, of course, emerged from those playoff games where it looked like she was doing the Olay on the screens, missing screens, not laying them down right, and with the appropriate effort that should have been given. And we all know, look, there's a conflict of interest because she's dating a player on another team.
Caitlin Clark, who has carried the team on her back since joining the Fever, now finds herself at the center of a storm she didn't create. Former WNBA players have also weighed in on the situation, emphasizing how critical trust is in team sports. Without it, a team's morale can crumble, and this scandal is testing the Fever's resilience in a big way. Just when you thought things couldn't get worse, they did. In a viral video, NaLyssa Smith and DiJonai Carrington were seen mocking Caitlin Clark's infamous eye injury from earlier in the season.
Quit, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You poked me in the eye. You're a troll. You're a troll. You did?
I did not poke you.
Did you do it on purpose?
I did not poke you in your eye.
The injury had been a turning point in one of the Fever's most crucial games, and seeing two teammates mock it, one of whom was supposedly leaking play calls, has only added fuel to the fire. The backlash was immediate. Fans and players alike condemned the video, calling it unsportsmanlike and disrespectful. One fan commented, "This isn't just a joke gone wrong. This is a personal attack on Caitlin Clark. How can we expect Smith to stand by her teammates when she's mocking them off the court?" Some insiders believe that this entire scandal may have deeper roots than we realize. Could NaLyssa Smith's actions stem from jealousy of Caitlin Clark's rising star power? Clark has become the face of the Indiana Fever, dominating headlines, sponsorships, and fan attention. Meanwhile, Smith, once seen as the future of the franchise, has found herself overshadowed. This theory isn't without merit. Smith has hinted in recent interviews that she feels she hasn't contributed as much as she'd like, fueling speculation that her frustrations may have boiled over into something far more damaging. If jealousy is at the root of this scandal, the ramifications could be even more severe. The Indiana Fever now face a difficult decision. What do they do with NaLyssa Smith? The scandal has reached a point where her future with the team is in serious doubt. Trading her might be the easiest solution, but her reputation has taken such a hit that it's unclear if other teams would even want her. The bigger question is whether Smith can rebuild her image after this. With her performance already in decline and her relationships with teammates in tatters, she's got an uphill battle ahead of her. The WNBA is a tight-knit community, and once trust is broken, it's incredibly hard to repair. The fallout from the video mocking Clark's injury only adds another layer of complexity. Smith isn't just facing internal team dynamics. She's up against a public relations nightmare. Endorsement deals could be at risk, and her fan base, once solid, is starting to fracture. This scandal isn't just about one player or one team, it's about the WNBA as a whole. How does the league handle situations where personal relationships cross team lines? Should there be stricter guidelines for player behavior, especially when it comes to social media and public conduct? This incident is forcing the WNBA to take a hard look at its policies. It's also bringing to light the challenges of navigating relationships within such a small, close-knit league. Athletes are human, and personal dynamics can sometimes interfere with professional duties. But when those dynamics start affecting game outcomes, the league has to step in. The Indiana Fever are at a tipping point, and NaLyssa Smith's actions have put the team's future in jeopardy. Can they recover from this betrayal, or is it the beginning of the end for the Fever's playoff dreams? And what's next for Smith? Will she be able to rebuild her career, or has she crossed a line that can't be uncrossed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because this story is far from over.
With the WNBA season ending for many teams, there are already so many players heading overseas to play during the off-season. But with all of the drama currently surrounding the WNBA, on top of the low-paying salaries, some of these players are questioning if they'll even return.
Buckle up, because Caitlin Clark has just sent shockwaves through the sports world by packing her bags for Europe. And now ESPN and the WNBA are left scrambling in panic mode. How did they let a generational talent slip through their fingers? Why is Clark ditching the WNBA for Europe? And what does this mean for the future of the league? Let's break down how ESPN's incompetence, the WNBA's failure, and Caitlin Clark's ultimate power move have set off a domino effect that could change women's basketball forever. In a jaw-dropping move that no one saw coming, Caitlin Clark has signed a mega contract with a European team, and the WNBA is in full-blown crisis mode.
But you're still complaining about the max salary being $250,000. You're still complaining about the absence of eyeballs. You're still complaining about the lack of headlines and notoriety and pub and cachet. You're complaining about all of these things.
ESPN is reeling, trying to figure out how they fumbled their chance to keep her in the league, and now Clark, one of the brightest stars in women's basketball, is heading overseas. But make no mistake, this isn't just a career move, this is a statement. For months, Caitlin Clark has been the face of the WNBA, the player drawing in record-breaking crowds and carrying a struggling league on her back. Yet despite all of her efforts, the league failed her. Clark has been vocal about the physical toll of playing in the WNBA, saying, "I feel like I'm getting hammered out there."
She's faced at the professional level and voiced frustration with the league's officiating, recently telling reporters, quote, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me, and opponents get away with things that other people don't get away with." That's what Caitlin Clark said.
And the officiating has done nothing to protect her. She's been pushed, shoved, elbowed, treated more like a fighter in a boxing ring than a basketball player. Now, after enduring a season of brutality and mistreatment, Clark has had enough, and she's taking her talents to Europe, where she'll be properly valued and respected. ESPN, which treated Clark as just another player during her WNBA stint, is now acting like they've been her biggest cheerleader all along. Suddenly, they're scrambling to cover her exit and pretend they didn't overlook the biggest star women's basketball has seen in decades. For months, ESPN downplayed her achievements, giving her lukewarm coverage while she was out there, breaking records, and turning the WNBA into must-see TV. Now, as Clark heads to Europe, ESPN is scrambling to figure out how they missed the boat. Too little, too late. Clark's decision to leave the WNBA wasn't just about the lack of protection on the court. It was about respect. And ESPN, they failed to give her the platform she deserved when it mattered most. The game she played against the New York Liberty pulled in 1.5 million viewers, more than some NBA games on TNT, but ESPN never treated Clark like the megastar she is. Instead, they're now left trying to salvage the mess they created.
If Caitlin Clark is the quote-unquote savior, if she's the golden girl, milk it!
The WNBA's failure to keep Caitlin Clark is one of the biggest missteps in the league's history. Before Clark, the Indiana Fever was struggling to attract even 3,000 fans per game. But when Clark stepped on the court, everything changed. The Fever's attendance skyrocketed by 400%, pulling in 177,000 fans, making them the league's attendance leader both at home and on the road. Clark was a walking cash cow for the WNBA, and they let her slip away. The league failed to protect their star, ignored the blatant fouls against her, and allowed her to be treated like a punching bag every time she played. Remember the eye poke incident? In her very first WNBA playoff game, Clark was poked in the eye, and yet the referees didn't even stop the game to review it. No foul, no flagrant, just a shrug from the officials as Clark was left to fend for herself.
During the first 2 minutes of the first round playoff game of the Connecticut Sun versus the Indiana Fever, DiJonai Carrington poked Caitlin Clark in the eye. Caitlin fell to the ground. She was holding her face. The refs did not call a foul. They didn't call a flagrant foul. The play continued. But now a lot of people online are asking for the WNBA to review this play because as multiple angles have come out of this play, it seems like it might have been intentional.
The WNBA could have built an empire around Caitlin Clark, made her the face of the league, and drawn in a new generation of fans.
A lot of this noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, said, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark.
But instead, they let her endure a season of physicality that bordered on abuse. And now they're left scrambling to figure out how they let their brightest star walk away.
It's important that we point this out. One of the things that I brought up this morning in talking about Caitlin Clark is that some of the players, you want to use the word jealousy, fine. You want to use the word envy, fine. You want to use the word resentment. We want to play with words. That's cool.
Let's not forget Clark's final game in the WNBA playoffs, where she put on a one-woman show with 29 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds. Meanwhile, her teammates were missing open shots and making boneheaded plays that would make a high school coach cringe. It was clear as day, Clark was the only thing keeping the Indiana Fever alive, but she couldn't carry the team alone. Clark's decision to leave the WNBA wasn't just about the physicality of the game, it was about the lack of support from the league, her team, and even the media. She was their meal ticket, the one player who turned the WNBA into a spectacle worth watching, and they treated her like she was expendable. Now she's off to Europe, where her talent will be appreciated and she won't have to endure the same mistreatment. As if things couldn't get worse, WNBA star Alyssa Thomas threw gasoline on the fire by suggesting that Caitlin Clark's popularity was rooted in racial dynamics rather than her jaw-dropping talent. Thomas's comments sparked controversy, and ESPN, ever eager to stir the pot, ran with the narrative, framing Clark's success through the lens of race rather than focusing on her record-breaking performances.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
Clark, however, handled it with grace. She stood her ground, making it clear that her success was the result of hard work, dedication, and grit. Not some cheap racial storyline, but the fact that she even had to address such baseless accusations shows just how twisted the media's coverage of her has been. Rather than celebrating her incredible accomplishments, the media chose to focus on controversy, further proving why Clark is better off leaving this toxic environment behind. Caitlin Clark's decision to head to Europe is more than just a career move. It's a signal that she's done with the drama, the mistreatment, and the disrespect she faced in the WNBA. In Europe, she'll be playing for a league that values her talent, where she'll be able to play basketball without having to constantly defend herself from dirty fouls and lackluster officiating. As for the WNBA and ESPN, they're left picking up the pieces. The WNBA could have built their entire future around Clark, made her the face of the league, and drawn in millions of new fans. Instead, they let her slip away, and now they're left with a massive void that they'll be hard-pressed to fill. ESPN, too, will feel the sting. Clark brought in juicy ratings, spiked merchandise sales, and turned the WNBA into a must-watch event. Now they're left trying to hype up players who, quite frankly, can't even come close to matching what Clark accomplished in a single season. As Caitlin Clark embarks on her new journey in Europe, ESPN and the WNBA are left scrambling to figure out how they let one of the greatest talents in women's basketball slip through their fingers. Will the WNBA ever recover from this monumental loss? Or is this just the beginning of an even bigger exodus of star players? Can ESPN salvage its reputation after sleeping on the biggest story in women's sports? One thing is for sure, Caitlin Clark is about to shine even brighter overseas, and the WNBA's loss is Europe's gain. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.